I'm very self-conscious right now.
Melody, do your job.
All right, friends, it is that time again. Somehow it has been a whole year and I am yet again in front of you putting on my socks, getting ready to run out the door for Independent Bookstore Day. It is approximately 8:15 a.m. Emily is on the way to me via picking up our friend Anne, who is joining us this year, and it is looking like it is going to be a fantastic day. My Facebook memories popped up. Yes, I am still occasionally on Facebook, and this was the exact day, which makes sense because Independent Bookstore Day is always the last Saturday of April, but that Emily and I attempted our first Chicago Indie Bookstore Day crawl in 2019, which we notoriously missed by one store. So last year we did 15. We are shooting for 15 again. Emily, in her masterful itinerary making skills, has come up with a completely new order of stores for us this year, and we are yet again sprinkling in some new visits along with our old favorites. So I am just so excited to see what the day is going to bring. I know the stores are incredibly excited. They've been posting on Instagram about it. There are multiple bus routes as part of the program this year that will take people to a variety of 10 different stores along specific routes. I do believe you had to pay to be a part of that, which, as one of my event planning contacts pointed out, makes perfect sense, especially for an event like this. So I am interested to see what the turnout is going to be. Last year was a notoriously high turnout, and if you remember from my video last year, there was a lot of kerfuffle with like passports and pins because there were just so many more people than they expected to be interested. So I'm hoping to see similar turnout this year for the bookstore's sakes. One, because they've kind of adjusted to account for last year's turnout, and two, just because this is an incredibly important sales day for them. From the sales day side of things, I have like a list of some things I'm interested in, but I have no clue what the day is going to bring me in terms of what I'm going to pick up, especially because I'm kind of coming out of a mini slump here. I've had things kind of adjusting and moving in my personal life, and I just haven't been able to focus on reading for a bit. So I don't know what today is going to bring, but I know it's going to be so much fun with my friends, and I will see how much I can bring you along for that, and hope you will hang in there with me. Okay, first stop down, we started at Madison Street. Is there a street in it, Emily?
Yes,
Madison Street Books this year. Also, please welcome again our good friend Emily, who is driving right now. You cannot show her. And Anne, I maybe can get a weird hi. Hi, okay. So it was already, I am very aware of how much I said hoppin' last year, so I'm gonna try not to say hoppin' every stop this year, but it was already busier right at 9, so that is a great sign. We all got our first purchases. We are on the way to donuts and coffee before our second stop because Anne was smart and has a travel mug of coffee in her nice Felicity mug, and I forgot to make my iced coffee last night. So I have bought A Letter to the Luminous Deep, which I did not realize was a paperback release, and we have all got our passports for this year, which I am working to pull out now. They are different this year in that they're these little one sheets. I don't actually know that this is a one sheet, but we're gonna go with it. That fold out, which we know looks different from last year, which was like a more traditional passport, but I think this is much smarter because there's only the 15 spots. These have to be cheaper to print. They can have more on hand. It still is designed really sharply and is very exciting, and it has like this whole like little stats section you can fill out to kind of personalize it for yourself. So yeah, that's where we're sitting. All right, onward and just onward. It's hard not to be much better than Goodreads.
That one.
So we are waiting outside of Open Books to open, and I probably have donut on my face because we just ate a donut. So, but if you are in Chicago or are ever visiting Chicago and have not had Do-Right donuts, fix that, especially if you can get them when they're still warm. It's a magical experience. In other news, look at that cool Bulls mural. Zoom in on that. A car's gonna go right in front of it. There we go. All right, so we just finished up at Open Books, where I think we all, again, came away with something. I got a book I had been meaning to read, and I am trying to read more Japanese literature this year because I'm going to Tokyo in the fall, which is very exciting. So I also have a Tokyo guidebook on my wish list for today, but we are heading to Sandmeyer's, which based on the time of today, won't be quite as picked over, hopefully, as it was when we hit it last year. And we are starting to see a lot more people out and about. We were a part of a very small huddle waiting for Open Books to actually open, and we passed some people coming in or coming out that were going in that were looking for some directions. So I don't know if that means we made a friend per the guide or not, but maybe we did. So I realized I didn't check in last stop. I know, I'm sure you are heartbroken, but we just went to Exile in Bookville, which Emily and I realized as we were walking up was the store that kept us from hitting 10 in 2019. And to be fair, it wasn't them, it was us because they were closed by the time we got to them. But this time, this time they were open. And I managed to buy a copy of Hazardous Spirits, which is great because I had to take the copy I borrowed from the library back to the library before I could read it. And then my first and potentially only freebie of the day, they surprisingly threw in this copy of Honey, which I've seen floating around but could not tell you anything about in this moment, despite the fact that I could very well read the back of the book. So we are on our way to something. We're going somewhere. We got a plan, but we've been to, I think we're up to 4 stores now? Yep. 4 stores out of 15. So we are both feeling very accomplished and recognize that we still have a long way to go. But so far, I have bought a book at every store. I don't know if I should sustain that, but we will see. And for now, let's just cut to some scenic State Street. Oh no! It was the free book, it's fine. Have some Gothic Target as a treat. I am checking in again from the back seat. We are 1/3 of the way through our crawl. I did have the realization that things are going very smoothly this year, which is fantastic. And we're having a blast. It may not be as dramatically interesting, but we're having a blast, and that's all that matters. So thank you for joining us on this adventure, whatever the final form may be. But we are off to the Newberry after hitting up Afterwards, which is a used and new, but mostly used bookstore downtown. So we've hit up 2 used this year, Open Books and Afterwards, which honestly we do every year, so we are on track. But we're making great time. Again, as Anne says, from your lips to God's ears. I guess my lips. I'm gonna stop talking now. Okay, we are 2 more stores down. We went to The Last Chapter and Roscoe Books, and I cashed in with a little incentivizing my birthday present from Emily, in that for my birthday, she gave me a voucher for the hardcover of my choice on Indie Bookstore Day, which was the best gift because it's acknowledging something that's really central to our friendship and is like an event together and is just so sweet. So I got the Reformatory, which I have talked about months ago when it came out in an anticipated releases, and we'll eventually finally get to reading. And then we went to The Last Chapter, which is the romance bookstore in Chicago. And I'm going to be a little blunt and honest in this moment. I'm still a little conflicted on it, and I feel bad because it's such a beautiful space. It's such a fun space that's so welcoming of its customers. I love the owner, but yet again, And again, it was slightly picked over. I did see some Beverly Jenkins. I did see some Adriana Herrera, and we know how I feel about Adriana Herrera in that I love her. But there really wasn't a historical section. There was no historical section, period. And they do have the store organized by like romance subgenres. And for me, historicals are what got me into romance. I love historicals. My romance book club all gravitate toward historicals. Emily is nodding in the front seat since you can't see her, so someone is agreeing with me in this moment. And they have like a couple, like I said, sprinkled throughout, but they don't have historicals. They have in the past, but it was all books that me and other friends, and I'm not taking all the credit here, I just know that I personally submitted some, recommended via Instagram when they asked for recommendations on books to stock, and it doesn't seem like they're getting restocked. And to be fair, I don't know if they're selling. I know I bought some because I want to prove that they sell. But I don't know, it's something I've been grappling with, and I think that if you watch the channel regularly, you've probably seen me grappling with this over the years, kind of knowing that historical romances are what have gotten me into romance, and I feel like are having, or should be having, a big cultural moment, especially with Bridgerton, and then going to bookstores that have expanded their romance offerings and then just not seeing options there. So I don't know, I'm gonna stop complaining because this isn't a complaining day, it's a celebration day, and we're doing so well. We are at store, did we do 12 or 13 now?
It was 12.
12. So we are so close to 15. So yeah, it's been so great. We're seeing like lots of groups out and about now, seeing some repeat groups, but it's just so fun to see so many friends like us just doing indie bookstore together. So yeah, it's just been a beautiful day, and it will continue to be a beautiful day for our 3 more stores. We are headed to 3 Avenues right now, which was our second stop last year, and I'm very excited, and I'm going to shut up so that Emily and Anne don't kill me. Not that they look like they're gonna kill me, but yeah, okay, bye. All right, checking in after hitting up 3 Avenues bookstore and Goblin Market, a new manga bookstore nearby, about a block away, which means we are at 14 out of 15 bookstores. The vibes are running high. I'm feeling great. We're about to get some more caffeine, which will help me feel even better. So we're on our way to Unabridged by way of the 7-Eleven first. And we're seeing even more groups out and like recognizing faces from store to store, especially when you're popping from one nearby to another nearby, and so people are kind of on the same routes. And I'm just enjoying feeling a part of something, if you will forgive the like grandiosity for a moment. But yeah, it's been a great day with friends, buying books, and we're gonna go buy some more. Live from the back seat, we have completed our 15th store, 2 hours, a little over 2 hours ahead of schedule, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. Hey, it's been months since that last footage, and I know that I got less of the kind of crawl this year, but it was even busier than last year, and I try and be really mindful of other people on the crawl and not vlogging other people, at least at this point. And additionally, I had another friend, as you saw, with me this year, and so I felt a little bit more self-conscious filming in the car. But I do still want to talk about the books that I picked up on Indie Bookstore Day. Now, I know last year we went through the books Emily picked up as well, and ideally I should have gotten that from Emily and Anne, and to Emily's credit, she did offer. I was just exhausted by the end of the day and so opted not to. So if Emily feels so inclined, she can leave her picks in the comments, and too, I don't know who may or may not be here, but let's go ahead and go through what I picked up over the course of the day. Some things you've already seen, some things you have not. Now, additionally, as I showed at the beginning of the crawl, we got our little passports this year, and this is my completed passport. Pay no attention addition to how badly this side is completed, Emily and Anne in particular, were doing really good at filling it out over the course of the day, but I did not do that and was not good about doing that. And so here you have me even miscounting how many books I bought because one was a free ARC that was given to me with purchase, and I realized I did not actually buy it, so I don't think it counts. I don't remember how many hours we went from start to finish. I want to say it was around 8 or just under, but I do know we were approximately 2 hours ahead of schedule. We made great time this year, so not 100% sure on that. I could have texted Emily to double check, but I didn't. We had one mode of transportation because Emily drove us. Two, I guess, if you count us walking to some stores from other stores, but really one mode of transportation. Non-book items purchased for me was 2. I did not count how many bookmarks I collected, but I know I got one at Goblin Market. I know I got one at Roscoe Books. So I got at least 2 bookmarks. Number of friends made. I did reference this in the vlogging footage when I said maybe those people we gave directions outside of open books would count as friends made, but I think really we did not make any new friends. But we did have a wonderful day filled with friendship between the trio of us. So I think it was a fantastic day for friendship all around despite that. Number of steps taken. I cannot confirm or deny if this figure is true, but this is the figure my Fitbit gave me. I had to go back into the archives. I don't even remember if I was actually wearing my Fitbit this day because I have been a little remiss in actually wearing my Fitbit since I switched jobs. But according to my Fitbit, we took 19,900 steps this day, which is not bad, and I should have gone the extra 100 just for an even rounder number, although the roundness of this number is also making me kind of question its veracity. But nonetheless, a decent number of steps taken, and then of course a 100% chance we'll do it again next year. Now, like I said in that kind of vlog footage, it went very smoothly this year. So there wasn't really any kind of dramatic action in terms of getting to stores before they close, making sure we got to even all 15 in time. It is absolutely a lofty goal, and we absolutely crushed it. So that was really exciting. Additionally, the stores and the committee that put this on really put in even more effort this year. They always put in tons of effort, but it was very evident that they were adjusting based on last year, which ended up being very needed because the turnout was even greater. We mentioned that they did these sheets instead of the previous booklets, which I don't think I have any on hand to kind of show you the difference, but if you go to last year's vlog, you can see it there. Even with these sheets, they ran out and had to print more, according to some people and booksellers we were talking to when we got to unabridged, which I think that that was a really smart idea to go this route, right? So the one I have is on a kind of heavier cardstock, and granted, the bookstores can stock whatever paper they desire, but once they ran out of that first round, they had the ability to print a second round of passports as well. Additionally, like I mentioned, I think briefly, there was busing and bus routes this year for the bookstores. So they had like different preset routes of stores they were going to. And I think I saw on social media after or day of, I think, there was publisher buy-in to this endeavor as well, or they had publishers that kind of gave gifts to those that were doing the bus route, or the stores provided maybe things that publishers had given them as incentives or ARCs. So that was really cool, I think, especially considering the bus option was a paid experience, which again makes sense because you have to man it. There is a whole lot of logistics that go into that. Someone has to drive the bus. There is a lot there. And if I wasn't lucky enough to have a friend with a car that was willing to drive us to all of these bookstores, I absolutely would have considered that bus. And that probably plays into why there was the spot on the passport this year that said number of friends made, because if you were on that bus, you likely made a lot of friends. So I think that that would have been a really fun experience. And if by chance you did that and are here, please let us know in the comments how that went. Now, there were no pins this year, which I think was very smart, but at our final store, Unabridged, we were awarded with this 15 store kind of card, which looks kind of beat up because it has indeed been living in my purse for when I go book shopping, as well as this cute little sticker with some pizza on it, which I think is smart because, you know, it kind of harkens back to the Pizza Hut summer reading pizza program, Book It pizza program. So that is really cute, and we got those right away. And I was seeing a lot of people completing their challenges. There was, of course, a little confusion when we got to store 10 because Bookseller was our 10th bookstore, and I think we reported there as that being 10 just in case, but we didn't pick up any like 10 things, like a 10 card or sticker, because we were shooting for 15, but just in case we hadn't actually been able to complete the 15, we were locked in with 10. So there was some logistical thought put into that. I don't know how all of that played out, or if that was a scenario that came true for anyone and they had to kind of go back to store 10 and confirm that they did reach the 10. I don't know. I got my card, I got my sticker, and I was very happy. But it was a great day. Like I said, we saw lots of groups out, lots of bigger groups this year, I think, even than last year. Like last year, I think there were a couple of groups of 2 or 3 that we ran into at multiple stores. But this year, we passed groups that were rolling like 5 deep going on this crawl together, and that was just so fun to see. And so yeah, no real drama, which is of course what you want, even if that means there is no real narrative thread. And we even got our redemption in finally getting to Exile in Bookville after that being the last store we were attempting to get to in 2019 for our 10th store that was closed by the time we got there, which again was our fault because we just hadn't planned ahead. And so then we were going to do the crawl the next year and return triumphant, only for it to be 2020. So 5 years later, we finally got that redemptive moment in getting into Exile in Bookville. And even though this is what we did 2019, we did 2021, no, 2021 I did alone. 2021, were we back? We did last year, 2023. We'd done the year before, 2022, because we did 10 stores that year. Last year we did the 15. This year we did the 15. And again, Emily is the one who puts these schedules together for us. So shout out to Emily. Our only little hiccup in the schedule this year, which we caught ahead of start, was that we were going to be going to Semicolon, but because it was their kind of soft reopening, they opened later. And so it didn't fit geographically into our schedule as well. And so we went to Uncharted in Andersonville instead. And so I will hopefully be getting back to Semicolon sometime in the near future, especially because they just announced a new location in the Wrigley building, I believe, downtown. And I don't know if that is a more pop-up feature or a permanent fixture, and I am hoping for the latter. But with all of that being said, let's jump into the books. Now, admittedly, I did feel a little kind of off of my game in terms of the books this year, in that usually I go in with things that I'm definitely looking for, and Emily always goes in with a list. She is a champ. She like specifically ordered books that were more backlist titles that she knew she wanted to pick up on Indie Bookstore Day into various bookstores that she knew she wanted to support. So Emily is a master. I love her so much, but I did not think that far ahead, and I was expecting to feel kind of moved in the moment, but I had been and continue to be in like a reading dip. It's kind of a slump in that I am reading a lot less than I am used to, and I was expecting to feel called to things, and I don't know if it was the slump. I don't know if that the end of April was just kind of a lull for me in terms of publishing and things that I was really excited about, but I didn't get quite as much this year as I feel like I have got in the past. And that is not to say that I am not excited about the books that I did pick up by any means, but I wasn't having to restrain myself from supermarket sweeping in quite the way I have in the past, which is great for my wallet and my budget, but it did make me question myself. I will say, Funny Story by Emily Henry was out right before Indie Bookstore Day, which was incredibly smart timing, and I did not pick it up. I restrained myself, and I am still on the library hold list just because I don't anticipate necessarily that one being one I will go back to, but I will have to report back after I finally get my hold in. But we started the day at Madison Street Books, and we browsed for a while because, again, I was trying to kind of get my bearings, get a sense of the day, what books were out. I was grateful because we got there right at opening, and so it was a little calmer. It was like the calmest part of the day. You will notice that a lot of my footage comes from the beginning of the day because that's when the crowds were less and I could sneak in a little bit of footage without people in it. And it was also at the beginning of the day when I had a lot of energy and hopes and dreams. But at Madison Street Books, I picked up A Letter to the Luminous Deep, which we talked about in an anticipated release video. And it seems to be a kind of sci-fi with sprinklings of historical fantasy, light fantasy kind of leanings, epistolary novel. It does have a blurb from Freya Marsk, which kind of tells me the tone of that. I am getting kind of cozy fantasy vibes from this, but at the same time, it does involve the siblings of our two letter writers looking for them. These two have disappeared, and so there is a kind of mystery angle there as well, and it will be interesting to see how the stakes translate in this. So as of now, I feel like if you are a fan of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, this may also be in a tangential realm of interest for you. And then at Open Books, I picked up Tokyo Unio Station by Yu Miri, which is the 2020 National Book winner for novel in translation. And I am going to Tokyo with friends later this year, and so I need to read up or brush up on some Japanese literature, and I saw this and figured it would be a perfect start, especially because I have seen this a lot of places on social media and feel like I have heard good buzz through osmosis there. Now, I did read the blurb in the bookstore, but somehow do not remember this first sentence tagline, which makes it even more of interest to me. It says, "A surreal, moving story of a homeless ghost who haunts one of Tokyo's busiest train stations." And I love something that has that hint of the odd. I love exploring ghosts in different contexts. So yeah, we will see what we get with this one. And then we went to Sandmeyer's, which is in Printers Row and is the store that we shop at during Printers Row Lit Fest as well. And while there, I picked up our, at the time, next book club book. We have since had the book club, and I have indeed read this book. And the book is A Psalm for the Wild-Built by Becky Chambers. Anne and I both picked up this book at Sandmeyer's, I believe. I think we wiped them out. Or maybe I picked it up, Emily bought the sequel, and Anne got it at a later store. Either way, all of us acquired a Becky Chambers on this day, and this was a hit with book club. It has been a while since we had a book at book club that we all enjoyed, and we all enjoyed this one. I enjoyed that it was a novella since I've been in kind of a slump, and so it was really specific in its language. It had a straightforward story, but it was still philosophical and full of kind of wonderment, and I really, really enjoyed the world that this drew. I really enjoyed the conversation we had at book club. I also enjoyed the frozen cocktail I had at book club, but that is not technically related to the book, but I really enjoyed this one. So this one has gotten a lot of hype. It's been talked up a lot, and I understand now why that hype was there. This was delightful. And then we went to Exile in Bookville, where I was able to pick up Hazardous Spirits by Anbara Salam. I mentioned as well earlier that this was a book I had checked out from the library, but had to take back before I could get it read. And this deals with spiritualism in the 1920s in Scotland. It is written by a Scottish Palestinian author. And at the time, I think it came onto my radar last fall, and I was super upset that there was a spiritualism book or a book exploring spiritualism that hadn't been on my radar, and luckily it got on my radar, but then I just didn't get it read in time. And so after a couple of books that I had high hopes for regarding spiritualism or kind of exploring that realm in the more Victorian setting, I'm really, really hopeful that this one is going to kind of deliver a lot of that atmosphere and the explorations thematically that I'm really interested in relation to these kinds of books. And so I have a lot of hopes for this one. It follows a couple whose life and marriage is kind of thrown off balance when the husband indicates that he can speak with the dead. Of course, because this takes place in the 1920s, we are dealing with the kind of after of World War I, which also makes sense for why spiritualism saw another spike in that era. And so also I think it may be kind of tapping into some of the same things that the Warm Hands of Ghosts may have been exploring, though obviously much differently, but I'm interested to see that explored here, and I am just excited to see if this is the book that explores spiritualism or has spiritualism as a kind of setting that kind of scratches that itch for me after a couple that I had a lot of hopes about or for that didn't quite deliver for me. Additionally, while there, I got an arc of Honey by Isabel Banta, which we discussed in the June anticipated video because it came out in June, which explains why I had seen it. I recognized the cover because I'd seen it on upcoming lists and whatnot, but I wasn't seeing it around yet. But this follows a pop star on the rise in the 2000s, and I think that this is going to be a great summer read, so hopefully I can actually get through it or to it in the summer, but we will see. But this looks like a lot of fun as well. And if you are a millennial like me, this is an era of pop culture that looms very large and that we have been really revisiting and recontextualizing a lot over the past few years, up to the past 5 years. You know, I'm just making years up, but definitely interested in how this is exploring that era and what it has to say. And then I didn't pick anything up at Afterwards, but we went to the Newberry Library next. I'm going to throw off my white balance by showing you their sticker because it was the best one that day. I made sure to text my friend who works at the Newberry that they had the best sticker all day. They forgot to make a sticker apparently, and so just used their barcode creator, but it is connected back to Newberry history and dates, and I just thought it was really cute. I did see a very cute picture book about a ghost while at the Newberry Library bookshop, but I did not pick it up because I just decided I couldn't justify the picture book, but it was so cute. And so if you need a picture book about a ghost, you should also pick it up. But I picked up a couple of cards in the bookstore because they actually had a great fun selection of cards. So I got just this birthday card that says happy birthday to a true classic because I thought it was cute and it looks like a book and I'm a huge nerd. And then I got a card that if you are for some reason my brother or my brother's fiance, my future sister-in-law, please skip ahead. I do not have any reason to think my brother is watching, but Hannah, if you are watching, I will see you soon. But I got a card. I don't think this is going to be their official wedding card. I think this is going to be one just for my brother because it says, welcome to Marriage High Life, established today, the champagne of celebrations. And Miller High Life is my father's favorite beer. And when the Thai Bar came out with a Miller High Life collection years ago, I got some things for my brother from that collection, or at least one thing from that collection for my brother. And I actually think, I don't remember if they expanded the collection, if he had something on his Christmas list this year, or if I just circled back to before, but I think I also got him the bottle cap cufflinks from the Thai Bar for Christmas this year as part of his gift. So I just thought that that was a cute little nod, and clearly he is interested enough to ask for socks from the Thai Bar and or cufflinks, so he is going to get that card at some point. And then we went to the Understudy, which if you remember is the drama bookshop in Chicago. I almost said new drama bookshop, but it has been around for about a year now. And I would say firmly established and really active in the theater community of the city, to the point where I saw last week that the playwright of the play that I picked up will be there in a couple of weeks, but based on her popularity, I missed the window and tickets were already sold out because I picked up Becky Nurse of Salem by Sarah Ruhl. I love Sarah Ruhl. Sarah Ruhl was one of my favorite playwrights in college, and I feel like there are a lot of people that would say the same. I've talked about Sarah Ruhl before, but if you are not into plays, she does also have a nonfiction title, Smile, the Story of a Face, that explores her experience with Bell's palsy. And I had Bell's palsy in college. My face did recover mobility, so I'm very grateful for that. I believe Sarah Ruhl did not. I have read the book, I promise. It's just been a couple of years, and so I am allowing a margin of error. But that was a really interesting exploration, especially because Bell's palsy is the kind of thing where before I experienced it, I didn't even know it existed, to the point where when it happened, because I woke up on Amtrak home from New York City and couldn't move half my face. And this was before iPhones, or at least before I had access to an iPhone. And so me and the two friends I was with on this day-long train ride from New York City to Indiana texted our parents, and I remember I texted my mom, "What does a stroke feel like?" Because that was the only context for losing mobility in your face that I had, which is not what any parent surely wants to hear from their college age child when they are out of state. And so my mom met me in South Bend, Indiana, and took me immediately to the emergency room, where I learned I had Bell's palsy. And after the diagnosis, everyone had some experience or had had Bell's palsy or knew someone with Bell's palsy or that had had Bell's palsy. And so it was just fascinating to me to see this thing that was much more common than I was aware of, especially when it's something, because it is a facial paralysis, that you would think you would notice if someone in your life loses mobility in their face for a period of time. And I definitely lost that. I think I only have one picture from that time, and it was when I thought I was getting better, so it wasn't at the height of it. But fun fact, I was not in fact better by the time of that picture. It just had vastly improved. Anyway, tangent aside, but if you spend time with me here, you are probably not surprised by the tangents. And if you are new, welcome to the tangents. Then we went to Women and Children First, which is just down the street in Andersonville from the understudy, and I picked up Kate Claiborne's new book, The Other Side of Disappearing, which we also talked about in an anticipated video earlier this year. I do not remember which month, and I have not read this yet, so I need to get to this, but it has a podcast, kind of mystery true crime podcast element to it as well. So very much kind of the moment, and very interested to see what it has to say. And of course, for the happily ever after. And then we went to Uncharted Books, where I didn't end up picking anything up because it is a very small space just down the street from Women and Children First. So you really can just move down Clark from the understudy to Women and Children First to Uncharted if you need tips for your Chicago book crawl next year. But it is a used bookstore, like I said, and again, it is a small space, so it can be a little overwhelming to shop on Indie Bookstore Day, but still a great store to get out and support. While we were there, and again, it was very busy, there was a group that was a little disappointed that their rare book room wasn't open. Now, I admittedly have never been in their rare book room because I am afraid to ask, and I don't get over there all of that much, but they do have a rare book room, so maybe I really do need to get back there and check it out. And I understand why it wouldn't be open on such a high traffic day where there is no way that they can kind of keep their eyes on everything. Another plus for Uncharted is that they have a beautiful bookstore dog. And then from there, we popped over to Lincoln Square to go to the Bookseller. Now, the Bookseller does one of my favorite promotions from them on Indie Bookstore Day, and also usually on Small Business Saturday, and that is Draw Your Discount. This year, I only got the 10% that I normally get because I am a member in their system, and notably, membership for that store is free. So if you are a Chicago resident that likes to shop in indie bookstores, definitely go check out the Bookseller in Lincoln Square. But I got a couple of books there by virtue of knowing I was going to get a discount. So I did find my Tokyo guidebook. I had been on the lookout for this at every store previous, and this was the first place I found that had the Tokyo specific guidebook rather than the general Japan guidebook, because we are only going to be in Tokyo. So I need to continue to explore this prior to our trip, but I have been kind of flipping through it and getting excited for sure. And then I also picked up The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo because I have been wanting to read it, and actually I am shocked that I haven't read it yet, and that is how you know that the slump has been slumping, because I have not picked this up. Emily also picked this up, I believe first at Madison Street Books, and so we've kind of thrown around the idea of doing a buddy read together, but we haven't decided on anything yet. One, because she is much more organized about getting through her TBR than me, and so she has been working through another series, and two, again, I have been in a slump, so haven't wanted to commit to a friendship project that I could potentially let my friend down on. But still very excited for this one, especially because of, like I mentioned in the anticipated video, for that kind of fantastical historical fiction element, and I don't know how to fully articulate it right now, but I will work on articulating it in case I ever want to do a feature Friday on this book. Next, we went to their last chapter, Romance Bookstore, which I mentioned briefly again, day of, especially in relation to the selection, and I was admittedly a little disappointed to not see more historical romance to be able to shop. Now, I didn't ultimately buy anything there, partly because of the selection, but also just because it was so crowded. I couldn't really shop the other sections either, especially because usually I can find good merch at least there, if nothing else. And so it just was kind of overwhelming and very crowded. It is a smaller space. It reminded me a lot of their grand opening in some ways in terms of it being packed, which we love. We love successful bookstores. I will say one thing I didn't mention day of, but definitely mentioned to my friend Mandy over dinner after Indie Bookstore Day, was there was a waffle stand, like a pop-up waffle stand at the store, which is a fun idea, right? They were anatomically specific waffles, and they were toward the back of the store, where generally I have found historical romance, if I find it in store, are. So I was very near this waffle stand, and so because I was kind of trapped back there, I learned that when someone ordered a waffle, there was a kind of theatrical experience involved with the person preparing the waffle and the person who ordered the waffle, involving some kind of role-playing similar to what you may find in some of these novels. And as a theater person, I love the conceit and the commitment, but I have always been known to not like the fourth wall being broken in my face, and it was just a very overwhelming experience to be hearing this while being trapped in a crowded bookstore in the back. And at that point, I was overwhelmed and I knew I just needed to get out of that store. And then we ended up going directly to Roscoe Books, and they had someone at the front of the store kind of helping guide people to the other bookstores nearby so that people could complete their crawl. And I remember them mentioning, you know, that the last chapter was nearby, and I can't remember if this group had a child in it, but I just remember being like, don't tell the children. And I am not a prude by any means, do not get me wrong. That was just not really a child activity on that day. However, we did then end up at Roscoe Books. This was nearing the latter part of the day, and so it was evident at this point that the store had been shopped, though not to the extent that San Myers at the end of the day last year was. That store had been absolutely decimated. I did not see anything to that level this year. I don't know if that just was based on the stores we were at specific parts of the day, planning on the store's part. I don't know, but nothing quite that extreme. But at Roscoe Books, I did pick up The Reformatory by Tananarive Due, which we talked about, like I said, in an anticipated video last year. This was additionally, as I previously mentioned, my birthday present from Emily this year, because for my birthday, which was in November, she gave me an IOU for one hardcover on Indie Bookstore Day. And I had been kind of like keeping it in my back pocket all day, and she kept reminding me, she's like, do you want this to be your hardcover book? And I was kind of trying to get a book at a store where I knew there would be a discount, but it wasn't aligning with the discount and the book being there. And finally, Emily caught on and knew it was toward the end of the day, and I had a hardcover in my hand, and she's like, do you want? And I finally just had to concede that yes, indeed, this would be my present. I think that that was such a good present idea, and I was a little jealous that I hadn't thought of it first and that I couldn't follow up with it then for her birthday, because it would definitely be copying, but I thought it was a lot of fun. I also thought about maybe for next year doing something where we buy each other a book at a store. So like we have a stop where we're like, this is the stop where we're going to buy a book for the other person. Of course, then we have to hide the purchase from the other person, but I don't know. I thought that that could be a fun idea for next year. We will have to see. And obviously, if Anna's with us next year as well, she is included in that as well. It was just something I was thinking about. And then we went to 3 Avenues Bookstore, which is off of Southport, or kind of further down from the Southport corridor. I don't know how far down the corridor technically goes, but it is a new bookstore in that area. It opened prior, or just prior, I believe, to Indie Bookstore Day last year, and they have been such a wonderful asset to the area and the community. I really love what they're doing with their programming, even if I don't get over there to enjoy or benefit from the programming. I really, really enjoy their presence and their booksellers and owners. So while there, I picked up Opinions by Roxane Gay, which came out end of last year, and I have been slacking because usually I am on the Roxane Gay releases. I even mentioned that I was slacking while checking out, and the owner, I believe, one of the owners was checking me out, and he was like, it just came out in the fall. Like, you're on it. And I was like, I don't think you understand. I feel like I'm slacking. I will say I potentially was leaning toward doing this in audio originally, but like I said, I've been going through, one, I own most of Roxane Gay's work in print, but also, like I said, I've been going through this kind of like mini slump, and these essays look very digestible. That was a longer example, but still not that long. And so I thought that this is something that I could jump in and out of between other things. Have I started jumping in and out of it yet? No, but I've got it ready to go. And then we went to Goblin Market, which was another new store for me. I believe it is a manga bookstore, but it will also appeal to you, I believe, if you are a tabletop gamer, if you are into D&D or like Renaissance fair vibes, which admittedly I am. So it had a lot of kind of fun stuff going on. It was later in the day, so I was a little bit more drained and didn't explore as much, but definitely in terms of like manga and graphic novels, it had a lot, especially compared to other indies, as well as a lot of fun kind of trinkets. There were some really fun candles at the front of the store that were like Midsummer Night's Dream themed, or there was one that was Half Sick of Shadows, which for me at least, and I think for everyone, is a reference to the Lady of Shalott poem. So there were some really fun extra items there as well. And then finally, in a complete reversal from last year, and after a quick chicken break, we ended at Unabridged Bookstore, which is where we started last year. This has been one of my favorite finds of Indie Bookstore Day because of their size. They have a great classic selection, particularly like Penguin classics outside of the kind of norm. That is where I picked up my Apuleius for my Cupid and Psyche analysis in relation to Bridgerton, with, of course, my 15% off discount. And so it's just got a really great selection. And in that selection, I did find a book that I had been excited about and that happened to be out just a little bit before publication, which I had forgotten that it was technically before publication. So I am sorry for not potentially contributing to the first week's sales, but I bought Woodworm by Leila Martinez, which I just read last week. So hopefully we'll be talking about in a Feature Friday. And if there are any books from this haul that you would like me to talk about in a Feature Friday, please let me know, because I clearly own them and you can give me that extra kick in the butt to prioritize them. But as you can not see because of the contrast, there is a blurb from Mariana Enriquez on the top here, and I love, for those of you who don't know, I love Mariana Enriquez, and this is the second knock it out of the park blurb for me this year from her, because we had Thirst earlier this year. We're getting another collection of short stories from Mariana Enriquez in the fall, so stay tuned for that. We will of course be talking about them, but this was fantastic. This is a house haunted by intergenerational trauma, but with an unreliable narrator and some really striking visual images that are underscored by really gorgeous language. So I am definitely hoping to talk about this more in depth, and I know it seems like there's probably not a lot to say about it because it is very short, but I don't know, you probably can't see, but I have a lot of tabs there. Like, let me just see if I can give you just a little taste for you to come back to the Feature Friday about this book. And the first line that I tabbed says, "Rage and a place to lay your head. That's the most you'll be left around here." And that is kind of the idea of the novella, which is very well done, very succinct. And it's interesting too, and I'm sure I will reiterate this in the Feature Friday, but I have been kind of underwhelmed recently by a lot of books that are coming in around like 300 pages, just over, just under. And I have been kind of questioning in myself if maybe I am being underwhelmed or it's my fault for going toward books or leaning toward books right now that are shorter. And this just reinforces what I did know, that no, if you are using the language efficiently and you have things plotted out, that you can still achieve emotional impact and tell the full scope of a story in a very succinct format. It just depends on how you are utilizing it. And the story is or should be however long the story needs to be told, but there have been instances recently where I felt like the story actually needed to be a little longer, like it needed a little bit more room to breathe, we needed some more scenes, or this or that or the other. So I'm not saying that that isn't coming in or shouldn't come in to the critique or a critique, but this just again kind of reinforced that when done well, it really, really works. And especially for something like this that is so odd, it really kind of needs that brevity to pack the punch, because otherwise you are going to try and kind of logic your way out of things a little bit more, and it's harder to sustain. And so this just worked so, so well for me, and I do not regret buying it just a hair early. I do regret that it is white and that it doesn't have a dust jacket. I will say also, in relation to this and A Psalm for the Wild Built, both novellas, both that I have already read, which for me is a major success within 2 months of Indie Bookstore Day to have read 2 of the books I picked up. It doesn't matter that they're novellas. I have read 2 of the books that I picked up, but these are both novellas and they are both hardcovers. And while they are not like $30 full priced hardcovers, they are still, this is $21.95, this is $20.99. So they are still $20 hardcovers. And I am more likely, I guess, to reread these, but I do not see the need for these to be hardcovers. I think if you made this a fancy paperback, it's a paperback, it has a French flap and a deckled edge. I know both of those things are controversial in a way I did not know that they were controversial because I like them. So I guess sound off below if you are pro French flap and deckled edge. But I think that that would be a way for them to feel a little fancier, because obviously the intent is for them to feel a little fancier, but for them not to need to be $20 for a novella. Now, again, it's hard because I will probably revisit these. I don't know. I'm sure I will revisit that talking point when we talk about Woodworm more in depth as well. But with that, I have talked way more about this haul than I thought I was going to, and of course have touched on a few more things from the day of Indie Bookstore Day than I did in the moment. But thank you for going on this journey with me again. Let me know what thoughts you have, if you participated in your local Indie Bookstore Day and what that looked like, what you picked up. If, again, you want to hear about any of these books in upcoming Feature Fridays that I'm going to try really hard to get back in the swing of. But thank you for joining me for my Indie Bookstore Day. Like and subscribe if you feel like it. Read something good, and yeah, bye.